Hello everyone. Today we're starting on the right rear corner of this FC cab. You can see I have the rear cab corner cut out, and I cut it out pretty high to get rid of some of the worst denting and stuff. And there's still some dents up top. I'll get those out before I put the panel in. But I think you can see on this particular joint it goes in and then over. So it's very hard to get in there and drill the spot welds out. So I just go in there with a cut-off wheel and cut the spot welds off. This side came out real nice. And when I was doing this side, some of the flange came with it. But this is getting replaced anyway. You can see down here it's pretty chewed up, pretty badly dented. And you could see when they did some sandblasting, nobody got in here to sandblast any of this area. And you see there's holes and everything. This wheel arch is about 3 or 4 inches rotted away on that. So I'm going to replace that. You can see the front's pretty tough shape there too. It's just flapping around. But you can see the rust, how it crept right up in here. And I think it'll look cleaner and be nicer to take the panel, this whole panel out. I think it'll be easier because I got to get this bottom piece out anyway. And then once everything is in there, I'm going to have to go back and sandblast this entire thing again, but I'll make sure we get in here and we'll re-seam seal it. Like you see all the seam sealer there, we'll re-seam seal it where it needs to be and get all that rust out of there. So I got going today on the cab corner, and if you go back through some of my previous videos, you saw me make a cab corner before, but I'll take you over to the bench and show you the buck and show you how I made that. Okay, here's the rear cab corner that I took off. You see we're missing a lot of the bottom of it. Some severe denting in here. So I used that to come up with a buck. And these holes are just so you can kind of clamp things and look inside there and stuff. But there's a buck for this particular vehicle. And I'm going to show you another buck I made a while ago when I made a panel for a late model, I think it was 64, 65. I did an FC 170. And that's the panel I made for the 170, and it's actually a little bit different than this 150. I did not think there would be a difference, but here's the buck I made for that one. I put 3 stations in that one. I found out you really didn't need the middle one. But the FC 170 late model is different than the early narrow track FC 150, slightly. The taper here was a little different, and around this curve was different as well. So when I went to put that in there and use this buck, there was just too much material here. The cab was in here, and this was way out. I've never run into that trouble before. I know for sure this fit perfectly on the FC 170. But I had to make a new buck for the 150. Like I say, I didn't really think there was a difference, but there is a slight difference. So from here, I made a paper pattern. When I make my patterns, I just use the masking paper that you use when you're masking a vehicle when you're painting it, and lay it on there and make it oversized. And when you're patterning steel parts, you can use magnets to hold your paper in place. You see, as we get down the bottom here, paper doesn't want to lay flat. It wants to fold over. And all these folded areas are areas that we need to shrink. And that'll all come in there like that. But there's an awful lot of area in there that needs to be shrunk. And we'll do that over on the power hammer. And that's just one way to quick get a pattern so you know how big to cut your sheet of metal. So we know most of our shrinking is going to take place. We don't want to go beyond that line, so we'll stop the shrinks way in here because it'll affect the panel that far. So we'll stop them in about 1.5 inches. And we'll do a lot of shrinking in this center section and a little bit out towards the sides, and we'll start to get that shape to roll down and roll in. And I'm going to get set up on the power hammer, and we'll start roughing the shape in next. Okay guys, we're going to start shrinking this into place. It's going to take quite a bit of shrinking. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'll show you how we go about getting the shape in the bottom. Okay everybody, it's been a few hours at least, and I'm just going to pop that off the buck now. I think you can see it just came off the planishing hammer. It's nice and smooth, everything's tapered, everything's gathered up real nice in there. I got the flanges on, and the curved flanges. You've seen me do it before in the flanging machine. So it took a lot of shrinking, mostly in the center here, to gather all this up, bring the sides in. So it's just a lot of back and forth. Shrink it, test it on the buck, bring it back, planish it out, put it on the buck again. It's just a lot of fussing to get these right. It takes quite a bit of shrinking to get those to look right. But this one came out real nice. And that's the back cab corner. And this I don't know how much you can see here. That's the next panel that would get attached to the rear corner, and then your wheel arch starts there. And this will get spot welded like that. That follows the curve. It's going to get spot welded. I think you can see that okay. I did the flanging, the curved stuff in the flanger again. Shrunk it around a little bit over here to follow the contour there. So I'll take you over to the cab now and show you how this stuff's going to go in. Okay, I haven't cut that side piece out yet. I don't know if you can see. Got a red line up there. Might be hard to see the way the lighting is here. But this is going right in there. And I still got to cut this out and get it detached from there. And I'll show you better when it's actually going in, but that's what the cab corner is going to look like. And we'll get that carefully welded in and get these seams real nice. But before I do any of that stuff, hang in there. I've got to get that inside taken care of before I start closing up the outside. So this inner piece is going to come out and get fabricated, and this back section is rotted out real bad here. So this needs a new back section, and then like I say, it's going to need the wheel arch in there. So this whole corner was just a disaster. But little by little I'm making pieces for it. And we've got 2 pieces made now, and that'll help us open this side up. The wheel arch will come out, this piece will come out, and the rear will come out. And it shouldn't get away from us here. This corner is pretty solid, and we got the bracing in there, so I'm not really worried about cutting pieces out. And but you always got to be conscious of what you're cutting out so you don't weaken the body. But just start cutting out and replacing and making patterns and making pieces as I go. And I'll show you the process of them going in. And that should be maybe tomorrow or the next day. But things are coming along. I'm attacking it one corner at a time. I'm hitting this back corner, and then I'll move to the front section, get that front corner made, and then we'll move on to the other side of the vehicle. So slowly but surely it's coming along, and I'll keep showing you how the parts get made, and you can see them as they get welded in.